All right, so for our last presenter, thank you first of all for holding on in there. I know this is such a wealth of information and to be condensed in one day, but you know what? Thank you for absorbing and being sponges and being inspired as well. So the cherry on the top is our own Kauai Teddy Blake. He's been instrumental in the Hapa Trail. And so I would like to go ahead and call him up, and as he's our last presenter. Then after him, we'll have a few words from Hope to do a closing. And I guess we will. I better inform you now before I forget that we have a barbecue that's scheduled at 6 o'clock at the mini golf. What's the proper name for it? Ainaho? Ainaho. Ainaho mini golf. Oh, Ainaho. Sorry. Ainaho. So forgive me for the mispronunciation, but I would like to now go ahead and call up Teddy Blake.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this time. We've heard about all these different trails and stuff, and I'll just tell you what we do in Kulo. We've had a tidal wave of development going on since 2005. And unfortunately, our Hawaiian population has really diminished in Kulo. Kulo used to be probably the most important town on the island at one time. And I think today we probably have, in the Kulo area, Kulo, Poipu, Kukui'ula area, we've got less than 1% Hawaiians that live there. So a lot of these things that are important to us, you have to go and really enlighten people about it. But thankfully, we have people in the community, non-Hawaiians, that are as interested in it as we are. And it was a community effort that put this together. It started with my mom's generation and my kindergarten school teacher and a couple other people of the neighborhood that were our parents. And as the development evolved in 2005 and 2006, every one of we had like 14 developments going on at one time, and some either in progress, just getting their permits, or in the process of getting their permits. And you go through the tunnel of trees, and then you go through the tunnel of dust screens all the way to Koloa. And it was like that for years. And, you kind of looked around and said, where's our place in here? What's our standing here? Because all of a sudden, everything was for, we got to build this for tourists, or, the economy, we need the jobs, this and that. So everything that was being built were for people that were coming from out of state. And how do you get somebody from out of state to really appreciate what you got? I mean, your philosophies are totally different, and I've mentioned this a couple times over the past couple of days. The Hawaiian philosophy and Western philosophy just don't jive. Hawaiian philosophy is for future generations and beyond. Western philosophy is for my rights today. And your rights today sometimes really messes up everybody else's rights forever. And a good example, I don't watch television, and I was at my brother's house the other day, and they had this show on OC-16, where these guys got these Kevlar wetsuits and spear guns that shoot 40 miles, and they go down for 3 minutes, and they come up with one huge ulua. And they're so proud they're holding this up, and I wish I was the guy interviewing them, because I was going to say, you normally eat shoes for dinner? Because that's how tough this ulua is. Or is it just for sport? And if it is for sport, you know how much ulua you took out of the cycle right now? And this is something that, why were our kupuna so successful? They knew what they had to do to sustain life. And if you took that away, the fines were severe, swift, and sometimes final. And there's a lot of respect for that. You don't have that kind of respect today. Somebody goes down to the beach and they see limoko, nobody else is around picking it. I might as well pick the whole thing, And whether they keep it and can make use of it, I don't know. Same thing with fishing, you know, sometimes you see guys, they're taking manini fingerlings like this, yeah, illegal nets. And they fry it and they're so proud, you know, you come to their party and they got 4 aluminum pans full of this fish. And I mean, what's the difference from on a manini this big from any other fish? You know, it's just the salt and a pepper you put on it. And they just, you know, if you got to explain it to them, you already lost the battle. So what we did in Koloa is that we had a cause. The cause was all this development. We went out to the community and talked individually to people, let them know what we had. Rupert was just here a minute ago. How many guys grew up in Koloa that never even knew about Kani'i Oluma? And it's right there in Poipu, right behind Bernanke's restaurant. This magnificent kaua, nobody knew about it, and it's intact. Likewise with the Koloa fuel system right across the street. I mean, this fuel system is so magnificent that in today's world, the U.S. Geological Service, Conservation Service says this is totally inhospitable and suitable land for agriculture. Our ancestors farmed this for 500 years. They even supplied California with all their sweet potatoes during the gold rush. They supplied the North with sugar, and they supplied the population for 500 years. Sugar destroyed that because they took away the water sources. So we had a cause because people realize, you know, life is going to change, and it's going to change in front of our very eyes. We will be pushed further back and look like we're going to be here just to be subservient workers to the people that move in. I mean, out of the 12 developments, the lowest price of a parcel of land without a home on it was $1 million. Your townhouses were like $800,000. And you know, I mean, there's just no way somebody's going to buy that kind of stuff where you can't even tie a dog up, you know, in the hallway of your condominium. So the cause was there, and we had to go out and individually talk to people because they're upset, but you normally hear about it in their garage when they're drinking beer, and you hear it for the next 10 years. But they will not come out to a meeting and talk about it. So it's just some of the things we had to do and go and talk to them. We find out about it. So we had a cause, we had the community, then you had to have a commitment to getting it done. Fortunately, all these developers had to do reports, and our community president in Koloa, Louis Abrams, loves to read this kind of stuff. You know, I mean, if it doesn't have John Grisham on it or Tom Clancy, I don't read it. So Louis would look at all this stuff and he'd say, these are the things we got to be concerned of. And I love this because, you know, he was my, what do you call those things in school? When you don't read the book, you just pick up the notes. Script, there you go. Louis was the script notes. You know, you asked him specifically, oh, he pulls it out and says, here it is. So that gave us a little bit of standing as far as talking with developers. And now we're talking with, these guys all came riding in on white horses because they came as a group and they had a very high opinion of their opinion. And we just had to slowly erode the ground they stood on and say, we got standing. And the most important thing that we did in Koloa is we treated them, first off, aloha is not automatic. So we had to teach them about aloha for them to give us aloha. And if they don't give us aloha, then we can show them the way to Maui. Excuse me. You know? And we treat them with respect and dignity, and we offer a win-win situation. At times, you know, we may win more than them, but at least they're getting something, you know. And then we're just hard. I mean, we drive a hard bargain and we stick to it. And we've been able to do some monumental things. Joanne was here a little bit earlier. Joanne helped us introduce a bill for a brief moratorium on the South Shore, doing all this craziness, that said we want a brief moratorium on the South Shore only to address traffic, drainage, and safety. This bill would never fly, would never even get a hearing at the county council. But we had it introduced on a Friday, and normally you take this and you talk to all the council guys first so they know what's coming up. We did it on Friday. The reporters descended on these council people on Saturday morning, and none of them had a clue of what was going on. And I mean, it's interesting getting calls from the council people saying, "What's this all about?" And you know, it's just that no one ever paid attention because we had tremendous amount of traffic. We had a temporary crusher in Poipu, which is the breadbasket of Kauai. 33% of the tourists, highest average occupancy, the highest average paid rate on island. And they let crushing operations go on 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. Dust was rampant all over the place. And you know, one developer would say, "That's not my dust, it's his dust." Nobody microchipped the dust, but that's what they thought. And it's just one dust fence separating them, you know. So Jimmy came out there with us a couple of times. He did some work with some EPA guys. And it was, you know, you kind of look at these guys and they frustrate you and exasperate you because they know what you're talking about. Because you're not saying it in the right way. They don't understand, you know. And it's so easy to just write it down and kind of slap it in their head. But, you know, you do that, then you're the one that's wrong. You know, and you're doing something right, but you're doing something wrong. So we were persistent in what we did. When we had talked to the developers about pooling their information to give us a circulation plan for the area of Koloa, because at build-out, we're looking at 4,000 units, which is 2,100 more units, and we got people living in Koloa town. And traffic was going to be a mess. You know, every unit you figure at least one car, maybe two. And if you look at the vacation rentals in Poipu now, you got like about 6 cars in front of each one of these. So we're going to suffer. We're not making a dime out of this development, but we're going to suffer with the traffic. We got to pay for the entire island has to pay for all of this stuff. So we talked to them and said, you know, why don't you guys pool your traffic studies and we can get a circulation plan pretty easy because you guys have all the data. Delay, you know, I mean, the longer they delay, the faster they'll get their project done and they'll be out of here. So after this bill for a moratorium was introduced, it was introduced on a Friday, and it was introduced as each one of them was going for takeout financing. And the word went to New York. Morgan Stanley and all these financiers said, "What is this about a moratorium?" "Oh, that's nothing." "Well, maybe nothing to you, but we're not going to lend you money until this gets cleared." And in 1 week, we got $650,000 put in an escrow account for the community association to address the circulation plan. I thought, wow, that was easy. I wonder what else we can get. You know? So they said, your money's in the account. Could you cancel that bill? I said, not yet. So what more do you want? I said, we want it done in 1 year. So can you put a little bit more money in so we can ensure that we get the plan done in 1 year? Yeah, okay, and I said, and we also need help in deciding who the best planner is. We don't know any planners. So could you help us with names? So they did all that, then finally he said, okay, we've done what you want. Now can you pull it? We need something to introduce this to the population. How's about putting in another $100,000 where we can address some low-hanging fruit, where you don't need resolutions by the council. All you need is a paintbrush to restripe and re-sign, which they did. And I said, wow, this is how it should be done between the community and the developers, you know. And the county was sitting on the side watching what we were doing. I guess they never thought we had a snowball's hell in chance to get this done, but we were very driven. We were very driven in Koloa. We were going to live there. Our families were there for generations, and we were going to be there for generations. These guys, and we've seen it after all the hurricanes that come, 3 weeks without water and electricity. These guys ain't interested in camping anymore. Button up the houses and they all fly back to the mainland, they sell their lots. Then you get a new group that says, we can out-engineer Mother Nature. We're going to build houses over here now. And it just goes over and over again. And we keep pushing further and further back. But this has given us a lot of, this has given us a reason to go on. And when you get small little successes, it's really easy to build. We have, we started Hop a Trail, 1 walk a year, probably 50 guys. Now we've averaged over the last year, the annual walk that starts Plantation Days, we average about 275. And we have myriad of tours during the year because it's such a unique field system. And this year we did this little makeup book, and it tells you, it starts off talking about Hoku and Hikeanalia going on the worldwide voyage. What's their message to the world? Their message is how we managed our resources very well for 2,000 years that supported a very thriving population. Now, you can't take that too lightly because when you look around the Pacific Rim, what does everybody in the Pacific Rim, the different countries, what physical characteristics do they share? China, Korea, Japan, Malaysia, Philippines, they're all 5'4", and they live on continents. Yeah? But when they move to Hawaii and they change their diet, their children get to be 6 feet and 6'2". Our ancestors lived on the most desolate, isolated archipelago on the planet. They had no Costco, they had no Matson, and the population averaged between 6 foot and 7 feet tall. They knew all about sustainability, well before the words were coined. They knew all about Malama Aina, well before the words were coined. It's in our genes. We've lived like that for centuries. It's in our genes. Maybe we don't know the word, sustainability and stuff, but we know, the guys who have lived here from small kid back in the 50s, you think back at your dinner table. What was on that dinner table that wasn't grown on Hawaii? Or on Kauai? Rice. That's about it. Everything else came from, the fish came from outside, the beef came from east side, vegetables were exchanged because everybody had a garden. Yeah, everybody had a garden, and you know which guys had what you wanted to eat, and you know which guys you never like trade with because you never like eat that kind of vegetables, but everything was grown here. And now it's so different. My nieces and my grandnieces and nephews come for a weekend. My brother's trash goes from 1 bag to 13 bags. Everything is, and they go up to Siokoso like 4 times a day. I can't even remember my mom going more than once, and nobody had to go. And she never had to call when she came home. Come outside and help me carrying the groceries. She comes in with 2 bags. That's it. So these things, when you look back at it, and I tell these guys are upset with the dairy in Koipu. I said, what do you think about Waimea cottages? Oh, beautiful place. I said, that was our dairy forever. From the time I was a small kid to the time I was old. I don't remember my dad ever telling us, roll up the windows, we pass in the dairy. That's just something that's something that you smell, with a dairy. And I said, if you ever experienced a shipping strike, you would not say a word about a dairy. Because 4 months, the things, you go into a restaurant, you want to use the bathroom, you got to put a deposit for the paper. The toilet paper. You don't give the paper back to keep your money. Sugar was another thing we never had. We grew the sugar, went to California to get refined, but sugar and toilet paper were the 2 first things that were out of the stores. Same thing with the hurricane. So these things like the colloidal field system are really important. And what makes it even more interesting is the colloidal field system is on the most inhospitable, unsuitable land for agriculture by modern standard. Thank you. By modern standards, and it's flourished. You know, the people there didn't look at the people who lived in that moku didn't look at the land and go, oh, I wish he was in Kilauea. You know, they get plenty of dirt over there. It's this is what you got. You know, they weren't interested in problems. They're interested in solutions, and they made it work. They made it work. So that's the story that we've had. I'm glad some of you had the time to visit with us yesterday and talk a little bit more about it. We got a wonderful booklet for those of you who haven't gone, and I'd be more than happy to share that with you guys. Thank you.